everyone, welcome back to Chai Together. Today we have with us Sabrina Haralson, and I am your host, Pratibha Day, and the founder. Sabrina is here to share her story about a rare disorder that nearly took her life, and in fact did take the life of many individuals who weren't diagnosed and treated in time. Sabrina believes that her experience opened the way for many medical discoveries and advances, and ultimately saved lives, brought awareness, and put standard practices in place for assessing, diagnosing, and treating this rare endocrine condition. We will discuss how Sabrina survived, recovered, and was able to go back to life and being vibrant more than ever. Sabrina worked in a healthcare career, and it was an adjustment to be the patient this time. Her passion for helping the sick led her to become a life and health coach, and also an author of Journey Back to Major Life Crisis, Finding the Will to Survive. Welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you. Hi, Pratibha. Thank you for having me.
Of course. How are you feeling?
I feel good. I'm happy to be here to share my story.
Yes, you look lovely.
Oh, thank you. So do you. I love nature behind you. It's so beautiful.
Nature is the best medicine, in fact.
Yes, it is.
Let's dig in.
Okay.
What's the diagnosis that you had for your disease?
So I actually started out with one diagnosis called Cushing's syndrome, and that's basically elevated cortisol. And after my surgery, which I'll tell you the story about how I got to where I am right now.
Yes.
But my current diagnosis is Addison's disease. So that's what I'm dealing with for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So tell me more about Addison's.
Oh, Addison's is actually the exact opposite of Cushing's. It's low cortisol, and it can lead to adrenal insufficiency.
Yes. And yes, so I have here, and it also followed a bilateral adrenalectomy for you.
Right, exactly. And it really was a journey, honestly, because it started out, I was at a good place in my life. Granted, I had some trials past, but I was at that point where I felt like, wow, I've dealt with all this stuff. I'm in my happy place. I'm in my good place. And then I started having all these strange, bizarre symptoms. Like I'd get every bug that came along. My weight was yo-yoing, and just all these really strange things that didn't make sense. But I'm not one to give in to things like that. So I just thought, maybe I'm a little too stressed. Maybe I'm growing up. But,
you didn't know how serious it was.
Yeah, exactly. And until, at one point I lost a lot of weight within a week's time, and it was much too much weight too fast. And I ended up in the hospital and, waking up and the doctor welcoming me back. And I said, well, where did I go? And, he said, well, your body was shutting down, but that's not, that was the only answer he gave me. And at this point, my sister stepped in to become my advocate. And she said, listen, something is going on with my sister and we need to figure it out. And it took about 3 to 4 months, but they finally, after seeing every doctor imaginable, the cardiologist, endocrinologist, psychiatrist, every specialty you can think of, the endocrinologist did some blood work and found that my cortisol level was 10 times higher than normal. And he sat me in his office and he said, I've only studied this in class. I saw it in a textbook. We covered it all for about an hour, and I have no clue how to treat you or how to care for you. He said, so I'm going to send you to the best doctor who can help you with this. So I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I met Dr. Steingard, and well, we were the perfect doctor-patient team, because up until now, doctors, including my doctor, had been telling us that it was all in our head. And a lot of women died because of this. They figured it was all in their head, and they went home, lived their lives, and didn't get the treatment to help them live.
Yeah, and there was also, you mentioned the 25% survival rate after the adrenal surgery, right?
Oh yeah. I'm going to get to that right now.
Okay.
But what I was going to say is we made a good team because the doctor didn't buy this "it's all in your head" business, and neither did I. So we were both willing to figure this thing out because people were dying,
Yeah.
And so anyway, fast forward to 2 years of treatment trying to suppress my cortisol, and the body will suppress it only for so long. So I got 3 to 6 months out of each treatment before the cortisol, pushed past the medication. So after we had tried everything, he called me into his office and he says, we're kind of at the end of our road here. We've tried everything. Your body's not really responding long term. He said, we need to remove your adrenal glands. He actually gave me my options. He says, we just let it go as is, and in 2 weeks you'll be dead. And I could feel it in my spirit. I could feel that time was coming. I couldn't fight anymore. So anyway, and he said, the other option is we remove your adrenal glands. And he said, I have to be totally upfront with you. He said, it's a very risky surgery. Only like 25% of people survive it. And at that moment, I immediately said, just let me die. I just wanted to die. I had been fighting this, and I'm not even painting a picture of what I went through. Like, my body was distorted, my face was round, and I looked like a monster. Honestly, I did. And so at that point, I said, just let me die. But then he said, you go home, think about it, pray about it, and then we'll talk again. So I went home and I thought, well, I can't be this selfish. My family has been fighting. They've been on this journey with me. My doctor was relentless and, trying to figure this out and save my life. And God was there. I thought, how can I let God down? How can I let everybody down? And I have to do the surgery. What's the worst that can happen? I'll die, which was going to happen anyway.
Yes.
So we went in for the surgery, and later on, I'll tell you, I've looked up some statistics that I'm glad I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
Because it would have scared me out of the surgery. But so anyway, in the surgery, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. They hit my renal artery. My lungs collapsed. I went into hypothermia. I did have a near-death experience where I went up to heaven, and I saw, well, it wasn't a visual seeing. It was kind of a knowing of like angels around and spirits around. Yeah. It was really peaceful. So I was on life support for 3 days, and I came back and I survived. And so 2 things following all that. 5 years after my surgery, one of the nurses from the OR came into the lab where I was working, and I right away recognized her spirit, and she wasn't in the best mood. And so I said, I think I know you. And she said, no, you don't know me. I work in OR. Our patients are asleep when they come in, asleep when they leave. No one ever sees me. And I tried to let it go, but it was bothering me. And I said, I know that I know you from somewhere. And she says, well, I work in endocrine OR, which is a specialty OR. And that's even more of a reason why you wouldn't know me, because we don't get that many patients. And I said, well, I had my adrenal glands removed. And she immediately stopped and her mouth dropped open, because now I'm back to me and I look like myself. She didn't recognize me. And she said, "What is your name?" And I told her my name. And she could not believe it. She said, "We still talk about your case. We use your case as a standard for some operating procedures." And she told me everything that happened in the OR. And I don't know if you read the Bible, but it always says, and an angel of the Lord appeared. And that's how I felt. I felt like she was an angel appearing, and she just told me everything. She said, "It's not by chance that we're meeting this way." And she said, "I really feel you need to know what happened in the OR." Well, she said they didn't get a sterile field ready. And, the doctor was really confident. He had done like removals of thyroid and all kinds of endocrine surgeries. And so he was confident, but he did the left side by laparoscope. And they turned me over. And when he went in with the scope, it hit my renal artery.
Right.
And she said blood just started like a water hose spraying everybody and everything in the operating room. And the doctor put up his hands and was waiting to call time of death. And they were all standing around looking at each other going, "Did we just let her die?" And so one of the interns came forward. And he said, "I didn't become a doctor to let people die. With all due respect, sir, we really need to do something." He said, and the attending said, "By the time we get a sterile field ready, she'll bleed out and she'll be gone. So what's the point?" And he said, "Well, we're going to do it." And they overstepped their boundaries and they saved my life. It took them 14 hours of life-saving surgery, but they saved my life.
It's almost the intern had to remind them of their duty.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he walked out. The attending abandoned my surgery because he didn't believe he could save my life, which in my story, there's so many hidden nuggets, and I really can't wait to come back and break it down a little bit more.
It's more so spiritual.
Yes, it was a very spiritual, but just if you take the word belief, that moment in that operating room where one doctor didn't believe he could save my life and one doctor did believe he could save my life, made all the difference. I know ultimately it's God's will whether I should live or die, but if God's will was dependent on those doctors, that one doctor, by believing he could save my life, saved my life.
Yeah.
And if he wouldn't have and I think Les Brown says this too, or a lot of motivational speakers, they say, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right either way. So if that intern wouldn't have stepped up with his belief, the other doctor's belief that he couldn't probably would have come true as well.
And I'm glad he was there, and it makes you think how many doctors possibly give up thinking that, the person's going to die anyway, and they could have saved lives, but they're not confident in themselves. But I'm really glad the intern is.
Exactly. I thank God for that every single day.
He was meant to be there.
Yes, absolutely. And so after the fact, it's a long road to recovery because they have to again start trying all these different doses of hormone replacement, and I went into adrenal insufficiency many times. I think it took another 2 years before I stabilized and my body said, "Okay, I like this dose and we're all good now."
Yes. I have a question. Were you in pain during those 2 years, like during the whole process?
What was the question?
Were you in pain?
Oh, no, I wasn't in physical pain. It was an interesting kind of illness because you know, there really wasn't any pain. There was just, I mean, it really required me to dig so deep into my spirit and my soul and find these places of healing. And it's almost even hard to put it into words because it was mental, emotional, spiritual. It was the whole 9 yards. And I knew that if I gave up, okay, I'm going to use, I like using analogies, okay?
Yes. Sure.
So I always wanted to fly a plane. And after my surgery, I flew a plane. And when I was taken off, I was holding the whatever I'll just call it steering wheel because I don't know all the technology, but I was holding the steering wheel and we were, you know, going up, up, up. And the person who was guiding me, he said, don't let go of that steering wheel. Don't even give it any play or we'll do a nosedive. He said, and I was holding on for dear life, like, so I didn't want my hands to slip, you know? And that's how it was with this sickness. It was like, you just have to hold on and hold steady and keep your focus in every way, because it felt like if there was the least bit of give in your faith and in your whatever you were going through, that you were just going to nosedive and that would be it. So so to answer your question, no, there wasn't any physical pain, but it was hard. It was very hard.
So I'd like to ask, how did this affect your living over the years?
Well, it's interesting because there are so many people that, even doctors, even healthcare workers, they don't know the ins and outs of this.
Yeah.
And so I was borderline adrenal insufficient. I went to the ER and the doctor in the ER said, I've never seen a patient in your situation. He said, what they normally do for you, tell me and I'll do it. So that's the kind of thing that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Like, no one understands.
Right.
You know, if I don't take my medication within 2 days, I will die because my body, you know, the adrenal glands are pretty important. They do a lot of different things in the body. And if I don't take mine, it's life-threatening. And, you know, my friends will just say, oh, you can miss it. You can miss your medicine for a week. You'll be fine.
So,
but I can't.
Do you feel fearful or dependent on this? Are you fearing that if you don't take it, you will pass away?
Actually, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned how to manage this, and that's the key, is learning how to manage it and sticking to that. Mm-hmm. Because when I went into adrenal insufficiency, that was really one of the reasons why my doctor said, if you feel A, B, C, and D, go immediately to the emergency room. And I felt A, B, and C, and I didn't go. And it was either A, B, C, or D, not all of them, but 1 or 2 or 3, or, you know, and I didn't go. I didn't go to the emergency room. I said, well, you know, I don't feel good, but I'm not getting worse. I'm just tired. You know, I was like reasoning with myself.
Yes.
When he had clearly said, when you get to that point, don't ask questions, just go. And I ended up in full-blown, that was the worst crisis I had ever been in. And he was really upset. He said, I gave you all the instructions. And he said, we nearly lost you, you know. And well, I learned my lesson, because I never want to be in that position again. It was very scary.
Do you feel like
that was the first time I was really scared.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I feel like you were testing life by doing that a bit.
Well, I didn't do it purposely.
Yeah.
Honestly, I called my daughter in the morning and I said, I'm feeling this certain way and, I'm not sure what it is. I just want to put you on standby. I was just depending on old habits and old
Right.
ways of
Old
being
paradigms.
self-sufficient. Yeah. And they didn't work. I discovered they didn't work and they almost cost me my life.
And I remember you had said that regarding resiliency, that you didn't have a choice, that when you fight, you automatically become resilient. So
Right.
did you feel that way throughout the whole process, or was there a point that was your breaking point, such as you stated that you were just ready to die?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was my breaking point. I just felt I had been fighting so hard and so long, and I just didn't have it in me anymore. I just wanted to give up. And it's funny because it was that point of surrender, that breaking point where I just said, God, whatever at this point, I'm
Yeah.
not going to fight. Whatever your will, if it's my time to go, fine, whatever your will. And when I surrendered and just completely let go like that, things started happening. Yeah, they were critical things, but they were things that needed to happen to help me build that resiliency.
Yes. And did you have a spiritual experience after that breaking point, which led you to keep fighting?
I didn't so much have another experience, but I was able to draw on the experiences leading up to that point. And then like I said, God did a few little
Yeah.
things, like he brought that nurse in, and along the way he'll do these little things to show me you don't realize just how close you came and just how much I did and how much I was there fighting for you. He'll just give me these little bitty um, signs that it was pretty serious. And with that, I'll share with you. About a week ago, I started doing some research. I wanted to know how many people in the United States had had both of their adrenal glands removed. And I saw some statistics about the surgeries, and the number is about 4,000. But I looked at the breakdown, and just say 5 people in New York had their both of their adrenal glands removed. Well, they broke it all down. Like 3 died in surgery, 1 died within a year later, and the other one is okay.
Wow.
And just say 3 people in Michigan, they all 3 died in surgery. And it was like, wow, the odds were really not very good. And even though my doctor said that, you can't think about that when you're fighting. All you
No.
can think about is, I'm going to be that one who's going to make it. That's all you can think about.
So what would you like to tell people today who are going through this rare condition? Well,
I will tell them to never give up, never give in, to love themselves, be patient with themselves, do the steps they need to do to stay healthy and strong. Have a support group, find a support group. Support is very important. And if they can find someone who's going through it as well. And I welcome anyone to call me, but it's important to find someone who understands, because you can start to feel like it's you against the world.
right.
And I'll tell you about my Dr. Steingart. He passed away from bladder cancer about 5 years ago. He cared for me for about 15 years. No one ever knew he was sick until the day he died. He didn't want to talk about it. He was very selfless, very giving, and he was my rock. He was my go-to. He said, whenever you have to list an emergency contact, put my name, because no one else is going to know what to tell them to do. So when I lost him, I lost my rock, and I would love to meet every one of those 4,000 people out there who have no adrenal glands.
I'm sure you're able to find them. There has to be a way.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
There has to be a group. There has to be a way.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And one more thing I want to say is, there have been a lot of advances in detecting this and preventing the adrenal glands being removed. So the chances are less that it will kill you now because of the advances. But the reason I would love to find these 4,000 people is because it can rob you of certain things in your life. And if you want to really have a vibrant life and productive, like, you're going to need some kind of support. And I think all of us coming together could be so powerful. Like, we could really empower each other to move forward and to have that life that we want, because you kind of feel like, well, I'm different.
Yes.
And Dr. Steingart would tell me all the time, you are not different. As long as you do what you're supposed to do, take your medication, do your stress management, you are no different than anyone else.
But you are a part of something unique, something rare, and that is what makes you different. And you want to connect with those people who have this specific thing that you went through.
Right, exactly. But as far as, shooting for the stars and wanting that life that everyone else wants, and, we're no different in that way. And a lot of times managing this can make you feel like you're limited, like, oh, I can't go and do this without fearing that I'm going to go into adrenal insufficiency. But that's not true.
Yeah, fear definitely has no room for something that you went through.
Right, exactly.
You go through something like that, makes you resilient and fearless.
Yeah.
Where can everyone find your book?
It's on Amazon. And I will.
Awesome.
So I don't know if you can see it, but there's a copy of it. And I titled it Journey Back from a Major Life Crisis, because I felt out of body, out of everything. I felt like I was in the twilight zone at times, and I felt I had gone to a foreign place. It was really a journey there and a journey back. And
and I'm looking forward to having you back on Chai Together.
I can't wait. Yes, like I said, there's a lot of little golden nuggets in the details that I would like to share, but I'm so happy that I was able to share that part of the story. And I really appreciate you having me on.
And I'm happy you're here, and you look lovely once again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you, Pratibha. See you next time.
See you next time.
All right.